All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone. It's so lovely to see so many faces and so many people joining us today. This is our third session of our webinar, Microsoft 365 Basics for End Users. Welcome again. I will start with some introductions for you. So I'll start with myself. I'm Julianne Hemingway. I'm one of the productivity coaches and trainers here at Storyals. I've had the wonderful pleasure of being able to be with Storyals for almost from the very beginning. I've been working with Midhund for that entire time. He is one of our very best technical, he's our lead technical manager, and very excited to get a chance to do this with him today. We've been working together for quite some time. I know I have learned so much from him. He keeps me on my toes and helps me understand all of the things that Microsoft does, not just on the front end, but he helps keep me up to date on the things that are happening on the back end. So I'm really excited to get a chance to do this session with him today and finish the series out with you all. I'm going to pass it over to Midhund and let him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Julianne, for that great introduction. My name is Midhund. I'm the Technical Service Manager of Storyals. I've been working for almost 8 years now with Julianne as well. It's been a while. Been there since the beginning. But I have to also say, just like myself, even Julianne, people like productivity experts are very important. It's easy for me to speak, but I speak in a lot of jargon. So to translate that, it's good to have productivity coaches speaking to end users, because if I speak, then not many would understand. So it's great to have, I would say, translators, or so to speak, to convey that message to the end users. So yeah, even you're also as important.
Wonderful. Yes, Midhund definitely keeps us well educated and keeps us on our toes. I'm sure you work closely with some of your IT leads also to help keep you on your toes on the latest policies in your organization. Well, let's jump right in. We'll talk a little bit about our agenda today. So we're going to focus on some of the essential applications that we use every day, our kind of tried and trusted applications, and some of the tips and tricks that we can talk to you about. We're also going to look at web versus desktop applications, and we'll focus really today around, again, those standard ones that we've been using for years, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and we'll look at how we can work with them in the cloud and working a little bit smarter, some best practices and some tips and tricks to help you get the most out of the Microsoft features that they're continually rolling out. And of course, we'll look at some new features and using Copilot Chat in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. There's a lot of new things that you may have noticed, and we're gonna touch on each one of those. And of course, don't worry, we'll save lots of time for Q&A at the end. And just a note, while we're in this session, please feel free to throw in any questions in the chat. We have our wonderful Storyals team here. We have Sanda, who leads our marketing. We have Carl, who leads our production. And we have Kate, who leads our sales here in North America. And they're all going to be here to help us monitor the chat and let us know if there's some really good questions that come in so that we can make sure we answer them in the session here. And any questions we don't get answered, we'll make sure to reach out to you and get you an answer though, so not to worry. And with that, enough of the slides. I'm going to jump right in and start talking about some of the new things that Microsoft has been doing. Okay, so we're going to start with, as you notice, I'm actually in a web browser. And you probably have noticed one of the newest things in the last few months is that your start page, if you use the web, if you're using your Copilot Chat or the web versions of your applications, you'll notice that the landing page is much different now. You'll notice that the applications are not what's first in forefront, but they've now defaulted it to Copilot Chat. And there's a couple of things that you'll notice. One, if you don't have that Copilot paid license, it will look very similar to my web page here, my landing page. If you do have the Copilot paid license, then you'll have a little work web toggle that'll be right above the welcome message. So that's the true and tried message and way to tell whether or not you've been given that paid license. And the reason I bring that up is as we start talking a little bit more about Copilot Chat and some of the new changes a little bit later in the webinar, you'll notice you may almost feel like you have the paid Copilot license because you're probably starting to see the Copilot being available in your applications, such as Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and even Microsoft Office. Outlook. So we're going to talk about the differences, and we'll go into a little bit more around how you can use this new features inside of the application. So we're really excited to share that with you today. And that's pretty new. You may not even be seeing it just yet. And again, we'll help you look into your organization and see that you may have it, but it may only be in the web version of some of those applications. Another thing you'll notice is that in the top right-hand corner, there's a couple of things here. The first one is you may notice try ChatGPT 5. This is a new rollout from Microsoft where Microsoft is now using the language model of ChatGPT 5 from OpenAI as the basis to run the Copilot chat. So this is a really exciting new thing that's been rolled out. Today, it's optional. So each time you start a new Copilot chat, you need to turn that on if you would like Copilot to use that new language model or that new basis. And you do have to do that every time you start a new chat with Copilot. But what Microsoft has said is in the very near future, that will become default and you won't have to actually click that try GPT chat anymore. So give that a try. I've often tried it with the same prompt without turning it on and turning it on to see the differences. And I do see a bit of a difference. So keep that in mind if maybe when you're using your Copilot chat, you're not quite getting the response you were hoping. Of course, there's always prompting, but that's a whole different session we could get into. But definitely give that a try. The second thing you'll note is, of course, we used to see all of the applications when we went to this landing page, and now they seem a bit hidden. But if you look at the focus on the left-hand side pane, you'll notice the chat is usually always highlighted when you go to the landing page. But now if you go down just a little bit underneath, you probably have a Create tab. You may or may not have that, but you'll see Apps. If you click on the apps, now you have the landing page that you're so used to seeing in the past. And this is, of course, where you can access all of the web-based applications that Microsoft has within the 365 Office package. So what's great is you can see there's quite a few the things that are applications that are used most regularly, but of course you can click on all apps. And that will take you to the page for all the apps that you have access to within your organization. And this may vary from organization to organization, depending upon the applications that your organization has enabled for you. But I would say probably most of you have the majority of these. Now, one of the things I do as a best practice, because a lot of times I do use the applications in the web browser, is I like to pin them. And a way that you can do that is you find the application that you use quite regularly. Maybe it's Teams. When you hover over the application, you'll see 3 dots to the right. If you click on the 3 dots, you can pin. And you'll notice it pops up underneath the Apps tab. I find this very helpful. And what that does is it helps enable me so that I don't have to click on the apps and then find the app. It's taking away a couple of steps for you. So definitely try that if it's something that you're not using today. But I quite like to pin many of the apps that I use regularly. So I would say, Teams, Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, they're the ones I probably spend the most amount of time in. So just keep that in mind when you want to access web versus your desktop application. And we will talk about a little bit more into that in a few moments. I'm going to have Midhood launch a quick poll. We can get a feel for how many of you use your applications in the web version. Maybe you can give us some input as to which way you spend most of your time, in the desktop version or in the web. Oh, well, this is another good one too. This is which applications do you use most? So please feel free to fill that out too, and then we'll pop up the next poll also that will have, you know, whether or not you use the app base. So let us know which applications you spend the most time in and select whichever one you would like. Wonderful. So now Midhood will get a second poll. We're just keeping you on your toes here. So he'll now launch the poll so we get a feel for how many of you spend a lot of time in the web version of the Microsoft applications. Oh, good. We've got a few. Oh, this is great. So hopefully you're also able to see the results on the screen. You can see that actually about half of you do use the web version of the applications. This is great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for giving us that data. That's always really helpful for us. And one of the things I'll put out there is that I think the reason that even I spend a little more time in the web version is today and over the last probably 6 months to a year, Microsoft has been taking all of the new features that they're pushing into the applications, including Copilot chat features. They're pushing them all into the web-based versions of the applications first. And then once they kind of, I believe, get the kinks worked out, then it gets pushed into the desktop version. So you may notice if your colleague is able to use some specific functions or features and you're not noticing them in your desktop version, it may be because it's pushed into the web version first. So I quite often use the web versions, but there are definitely different reasons for using each one. If you think about the full functionality that you really have in that desktop version, when you have large, complex documents, it really makes sense to use that desktop version. And of course, you have the opportunity to be offline while using your desktop version of the application. And there are many times when that is exactly what you need. You need to be offline to be able to make sure that you're the only one that has access, or you may be in a position where you don't have internet access but need to be able to work on that document. And that makes perfect sense. But of course, one, if you want some of those extra new features, or you want to make sure that you are online and collaborating with your colleagues by working in the web versions, then that gives you that ability to get some of those new features that Microsoft has pushed out to the applications. And of course, the only way you can work on those is if you're online, because of course it's through the web browser. So what we'll do is now we're going to look into a few of the basics and go over a few of the things that it might be really helpful for you when you think about working online in the web versions of the documents. So I'll take, for example, let's go back to, we'll look at Microsoft Word as a starting point. So you'll see I'm in the web version, and it does look a little different than it does in the desktop. I, of course, can create a blank document. I could upload an existing file that maybe I have been working offline on the desktop version. Or, of course, I can, look at my recent documents, favorites, or things that have been shared with me. So for this demonstration purposes, I'm going to open up a document that I have been working on. And actually, this document, what I'm going to do is, this is a document that one of my colleagues has produced for a project they're working on in another part of the world. And I've realized that this is something that I actually would like some input on, and I'd like to adjust and make some changes to this document to align to a project I'm working on here in the States. So I'm going to take this document and I'm going to ask Midhun to help me edit it because he is our technical lead and he really understands especially sustainability in the technology center. So I'm going to ask Midhun for his help. And because I'm using the web browser, not that I couldn't do it in the desktop, but this gives me very free usage of being able to share this document with Midhun. So I can have him help me edit this document. So you can see I have over here, I'm going to share this document with Midhun. And of course, this comes up, your little share button. I can pick a specific person. I'm going to share it with Midhun. And you notice I can choose, of course, I want him to help me edit this document. But I can also ask him just to review, suggest some changes. Or I just want him to view it and review it just to let me know that he's seen the document and that he believes it's ready for print. Or I also have the opportunity to have him review it, but not be able to download it so that therefore it won't get reproduced without us both knowing where the document goes. But for these purposes, I need help. I need Midhun's help actually editing the document. So of course I can then send him a link to the document.
Just, sorry to interrupt. Switch to the email address to .us then .net.
Oh, that's a
I think
good
that was the
point.
external. That was the external.
Oh yes, good point, Midhun.
Yeah.
And we'll talk. Midhun's going to talk in just a moment about being able to share documents externally too. So let me correct that. And I'm going to share that with Midhun in my current organization. So make sure I have Midhun's correct address. So this is an internal sharing. So I'm going to be sharing this document with Midhun internally. And I'll have Midhun walk through with you a few ways that you can share externally based on your organization's policies. So I've shared that with him now, and you can see I'm up here in the corner. This is the original document from myself. And I'm sure Midhun is going to log in now, and he's going to bring up the document so that the two of us can work on this together. So you'll see.
Okay, great.
Go ahead, and you can see that in an email, he's going to be able to now open this up. I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah. So as you can see, so Julian used the Adam Michaels account to share the file with me. So here I immediately get an email from Adam. Julian, then press OK, just press open. There we go. There we are. So now I have Julian's document open. I can start editing right away. And as you can see right here, I can actually see Julian's presence here. So we can co-edit the document at the same time. So any change Julian makes, I can see here as well. There you go. I can see Julian is typing something right away. Great. And as you can see, she's making some edits. Great. Thank you, Julian. So now, as you can see at the top here, there's a cloud icon with a green checkbox. It means it's automatically saved every time. If I make changes, Julia makes changes, it's always auto-saved. But if I click on Try File and then create a copy, I can also do create a copy online. I can also download a copy offline. So the difference here is if I click on create a copy online, I can save anywhere within our own organization. That is either in this case, my Adam's OneDrive. But since the file is created by Adam, in this case, Julian, I don't have permissions to move it. So in that case, I can create a copy in my files, as in my OneDrive, and save it here.
And that brings up a good point, actually, Midhun, because as you remember earlier, I stated this was an existing document that my current colleagues in another part of the world are using, and Midhun and I are actually updating it in order to send it for a different project. So I believe maybe you can review what happened because I didn't create a copy.
Yeah, so the other way is you can do is create a copy to download, copy offline. So in this case, if you download this offline, it'll be in this case, my PC. And neither Julian or anyone else has access to this document. So every time I do make changes, no one can see them unless I should go ahead and upload that as a separate file to a separate sharing folder, so as to speak. But ideally, if I do want to share this file, it'd be better to share in a SharePoint site, because right now this file is in Adam Michael's OneDrive, as in the file Julian worked on. A quick tip, in the URL, you can see, in this case, Storyals US is the tenant, the company name, -my.sharepoint.com. You would think, okay, this is SharePoint, this is not OneDrive. But no, so if you see a -my right before SharePoint, it's actually a OneDrive. And you can also see that right here in personal and Adam Storyals US. So who this file belongs to, where this file is actually stored. In this case, it's stored in Adam's OneDrive. So that's when you know it's not a SharePoint, it's actually in OneDrive. I know it's a bit confusing, but that's how Microsoft named it.
That's very helpful. And then I think because this is an existing document, but now I believe because I've made some changes, I've actually changed the original document, which I didn't mean to do. I meant to make sure that I saved a copy. So Midhood, maybe you can help me to figure out how can I get that previous document to go back to its original version so that I can move forward and have two separate documents, one that was the original and one that you and I are making changes for a different project.
Of course. So in that case, we can use this feature called version history. If we click on the top of the file layer, you can see something called version history. If we click on that, I can see the changes Julian made just 3 minutes ago. I can switch back to the original, how it was. There you go. But don't panic. It's not going to overwrite until unless you click restore. You're still going to have the original document edited by Julian, unless you actually press the restore button. Only then it will overwrite all the changes. But again, even if you overwrite, you will still see, you can still go back to version history and still see the changes and revert to the actual version that you want to, vice versa. So you always have a copy that was edited. So you can always go back and don't panic. Oh, I lost everything. No, it's all there. Okay, yeah. And that's version history for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm not sure about you, but I have done that more times than I can count. I get excited about finding a document or a presentation or an Excel spreadsheet that has a lot of the formatting, a lot of the content that I need to reuse for another project or another purpose. And I open it up and I just start making changes. And I realize, oh no, I really should not have been editing the original file, but then resaving it to make sure that I have a new copy of that existing file to make changes to. But as Midhood just showed you, such an easy way to be able to go back and get to that previous version to make sure that you have kept the existing version and you are now have your new version of the document that you can edit. And the other thing that I'll point out is, as you noted, this was shared from my OneDrive, shared with Midhood. So because it was in my OneDrive, of course, the only way to share it with the rest of our colleagues over time would be to either invite them to see it in my OneDrive, but once I believe you really want to start sharing it with a broader audience, then it's really appropriate to share it inside of Teams. And that's where then you could move the document. And again, as Midhood stated, because it's in my OneDrive, I would have to be the one to do the move. And I would then move it to the correct team and channel where all of the colleagues are, and it makes most sense for that file to be saved in. And then all of the people within that channel would have the ability to make edits to it, have the ability to move it, to copy it, because we would all have the same permissions. So as you can see, because I am the owner and Midhood is not, I'm just sharing it with him, he does not because it's in my OneDrive. So that's a good distinction to remember when you're creating and starting documents. In addition, think about whether or not you move the document, because if you save another copy of the existing document, it could get a little confusing. So I try to create a best practice that I always move the document. In this case, Midhood and I are working on it in my OneDrive. So I would make sure that once he and I are ready for it to be seen by a broader audience in a team and in a channel, then I would move it to that team or channel to make sure that then that we don't have confusion about how many versions of the document we have, and we have that single version. The next thing we wanted to just talk about is a lot of times, as I said, we're working on a project for this document, and that project also entails collaborating with an external partner. And that partner's not part of Storyals. So Midhood, could you give us a little view on at least our best practice about how we work here in Storyals? And then of course, you'll have to work with your organization on external sharing as to how we might be able to share this with an external person for our partners so that then they also could collaborate with us on this document.
Thank you, Julia. Of course. So we at Storyals, we use a SharePoint site dedicated for external sharing. We call it customer external sharing site. And over there, we just move any document that we actually need to share externally to that folder. And I will just show you how I do it. I won't actually do it since this is just for demo purposes. If I click on File, I click on Move, you would see a list of SharePoint sites if you're part of the SharePoint site. But in this case, I'm not part of any SharePoint site, so I won't be able to show you. But I can also share it in a team. So here I am actually part of a team. So I can click on the team and go to the general channel and then move it here. But in this case, since I don't have permissions to move, I can't move it. So ideally, if you want to share with external sharing partners, that's what you would do. But when you do share, let me just show you how it looked like if you do. Click on share. Let's just assume this is in a SharePoint site. And I'm going to click on the link settings. You would see multiple options here. You may not see depending upon your organization because some organizations do not allow external sharing to any third party that's outside their organization, but we do, since we have a lot of partners and customers that require file sharing. They need to retrieve files from us. So we do have it enabled. So you can see this option called anyone, and anyone actually means anyone outside your organization can see your file or even edit, depending upon how you give the permissions. So always be careful when you play around with the setting. So make sure if you do with anyone, make sure you, instead of can edit, maybe can view or can review. You can also do can download, but they can view. So you can have, there's an option where you can view, but not download. So if you want to keep your files within your organization and not ending up in someone else's hands, making a copy of it. And you can also limit the date. So let's say I want to share with them today, but I want to make sure they're done with their access by next week. No more. So you set us next week. You can also set a password. So only they who have a password can access the file. Sometimes if you share a link and let's say someone else has the link, then anyone can access it. So you can set a password, only share the password with someone you trust. Yeah, there we go. And I would say that's probably the safest way to share to an external party.
Thank you, Midhood. I know that's really helpful. So definitely check with your organization on the best way to share files externally. And that could be actually just physically attaching them to an email and sending them, depending upon your company's security policies. But if you are able to share externally, just make sure, again, you really check those share settings to make sure they're set up to align to how you want to make sure that you share. And that includes whether or not they can edit, any expiration dates, anything of that nature. And if at any point you're ever unsure of whether or not you are sharing this document with anyone, whether it's from your OneDrive or from somewhere in SharePoint, one of the ways I'll let Midhun show, since he's here, how you can manage access of a document that you're at, and to find out if you are sharing it with others, and to decide whether or not you keep that.
Of course, there as well.
There we go.
Have manage access. There you go. So I can see right now myself, the external user that because Julianne shared earlier. So you can see it clearly says as well, external user. So you can actually go ahead and remove that if you need to, or edit it in this case. But there you go. You just remove, and it's gone. Now that external user doesn't have access to it. Same way you can do it with groups. In this case, not been shared with any group, but you can also do it with links. So any link that you think, oh, I clicked on enable bubble link, let me just remove that. So you can just delete. And if anyone does have that access to that link, it doesn't work anymore, doesn't exist. Yeah.
Thank you, Midhun. That's great. Always remember, in case you're not sure of where you were sharing the document, or if you were, it's great to be able to go back and do a little reflection to make sure that you're still not sharing documents that maybe you no longer need to be sharing. It's a great way to check that. And Midhood was about to go into SharePoint, because there are a lot of different ways that you can look at that, including in your OneDrive. So that's, again, probably a whole nother hour session we could do with you on being able to review the settings that you have and who has access to your data. But I'm sure you're probably fairly well versed on that. Thank you so much, Midhun. Now I'm going to take over for a moment, and I think this is probably a good time to start looking at, how you can now use that Copilot chat inside the web versions. And maybe this has actually pushed through to your desktop versions. Some of you may have it there also. So just a show of hands, how many of you have a Copilot paid license? If you want to give a thumbs up or a hands up. We have a couple. So for those of you who don't have the paid license yet, there's some really exciting news. Microsoft has started rolling out just in October that now you have the ability, without a paid license, they've actually moved the chat, Copilot chat, and added it to, as I said earlier in the session, to Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and in Outlook. We're not going to touch on Outlook today, but at the end of the session, I'll give you a few pointers of what you can do. And you'll notice I've been in this document. This account does not have a paid license. Previously to this being rolled out, in order to ask a question about a document or to get data or help you draft something, you would always have to go to your Copilot chat, whether it be through Teams, through Outlook, or through the web or the desktop application. You would then have to type in what you would want Copilot to help you with. And if you had a reference file, you would have to upload that file. But what Microsoft has done is they've pulled the chat into each of the applications. So you may notice you'll have a Copilot icon in your main icon feed. And again, if you're not seeing this in your desktop version just yet, try the web version of the application. So again, you'll notice this does not have a work web toggle in the chat, which means I don't have a paid license. Now, this is where I think it's been very confusing for a lot of users. I've been in lots of sessions with them and they said, no, I do. I have the paid Copilot license now because I see Copilot in my applications. So it definitely can be a little confusing. The good news is you have a lot of capabilities even though you don't have your paid license yet. So what this does, and again, the way that you know that is if you have a toggle here. If you don't have the toggle, then you have the Copilot chat, which is included in your Microsoft 365 license. So you'll notice I have it, of course, which I love. Copilot always gives you suggestions of prompts that might inspire you about how to use Copilot chat in this particular document. So now I can talk to Copilot about this document. I may ask it to summarize the document, maybe create an FAQ, maybe get the highlights of the document, or maybe I need some help with actually rewriting a portion of the document. So having Copilot chat with the included, what happens is you're not able to have Copilot actually make modifications to the document. But of course, there's a way around it. So for example, if I would like to reword this, I can now ask Copilot. So I've copied it. I can ask Copilot, can you help me to reword this paragraph to be in a more simple, straightforward language? Because I realize a lot of people are not very adept with sustainability and the technology. So I'm going to ask it to rewrite this in a way that's in a more simple language so that anyone that picks up the document is going to be able to understand the true introduction. So you can see Copilot has given me a simpler, more straightforward version. I can review that. And you can see, of course, it's going to continue to prompt me. Would you like to make it even shorter, punchier, maybe clear, but slightly a more formal tone? Again, you can see it's giving me suggestions, such as, can I make it even simpler, maybe for a younger audience to understand? Maybe reword it for a business presentation. So, or even translate it into a spoken language of a different language. So at this point, I'm going to say I actually like the output. So now I can copy it. And what I like to do is I like to just add it in. And then I can compare the two, make any final adjustments to the new version that I've added in. And then once I've had a chance to do that, I can then delete the original. And now I've been able to use my Copilot chat to help me inside this document make adjustments and changes, even though I don't have that paid Copilot license. So this can be a real help when it comes to using Copilot inside your applications. So as a reminder, Copilot included, as we're talking about here now, would not have access to any of the other data that you did. So I wouldn't be able to necessarily reference another document without actually including it. So again, I may want to, maybe I'll go into PowerPoint and I'd like to create a PowerPoint based on that document. So again, I'll start PowerPoint. And you notice I have a Ask Copilot Anything in addition. Maybe I want it to create a presentation. So this is a great way. I'm going to use that Word document that I had, and I'm going to reference it and ask Copilot to help me create a presentation based on that previous Word document. And now ideally, I would put a much better prompt, not just create a presentation. I would definitely add some specifics. Again, I'm sure you've been learning a lot about prompting, and the better you prompt, the more data you give Copilot, such as, how long you would like it, how detailed, how concise. the type of language, a simple language, a formal tone, more executive feel. But for this practice, I'm just going to, again, it's the most recent document I was in, so it immediately came up, but you can choose multiple files as reference. In addition, you can choose an Excel file, a PDF, a Word file, and even if you're familiar with a loop component or a meeting notes. If you don't see your file here, you can always click on the up arrow, and that will allow you then to browse other data that you have access to. So for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and keep it simple. And you could see I could add up to 5 reference files, and that's all in a paid license. It allows you to add up to 20 different reference files, but 5 files is fantastic considering this is the included version. Oh, something went wrong. So let's pick a plain template just to keep it easy. And let's try it again and let's see if we can get it to work. It doesn't seem to be working for me today. So with that, I will go to a previous and let's make some adjustments to it. So I apologize that didn't work. And again, this is part of the new technology rolling out. This is very, very new. Some of you may not even be seeing that Copilot yet in your applications. So definitely there'll be a few glitches here and there, but please don't let that waver you from trying it. Keep trying it every day, and each time we use it, it gets better and better. But again, I can ask Copilot anything. This gives me some suggestions, so I could ask it to summarize, maybe generate a script for the presentation, maybe help me with speaker notes for my presentation. And again, what Copilot is able to do, this is again Copilot Chat, so it's able to help you with the document that you have in front of you. But if I wanted to, create maybe a new image for one of my slides, maybe this image just isn't quite working for me, or I would like an image for this. So I can create an image for this slide. And now I can let Copilot Chat go away and help me create an image that I can use to add into this slide. So there's so many things that you're able to do with the Copilot Chat now built inside of each of the applications. And you'll see this does take a little bit of time. And again, what you'll notice is I can't go inside and make inside the document to make any adjustments. You do have to do all of the requests to Copilot in the Copilot Chat, and you will need to copy paste into your document. And that's really the biggest difference, along with the fact that Copilot Chat can only see what you upload or reference to it versus actually being able to, it's not able to go and see all of the data that you have access to. So with your Copilot paid license, I could ask Copilot to create a presentation about Storyals HR practices and how we onboard new employees, and it would then go reference my internal documents that I have access to actually use that as a reference. Now, with the chat version, again, you could just upload those documents to make sure that Copilot references that data. So sometimes you get even a little better answer because you're very specific about the files that it's looking at. And you'll see it's come up with a lovely photo, a lovely image for me that I can choose if that's the correct image I'd like to use. And now I can copy it. And let's move this a little bit here, and I can paste it. So now I can add this image to my presentation. I didn't have to go search for one. And now I have a nice image that I can add to spoof up my presentation. So you'll see how that Copilot chat being integrated into your applications is so powerful. In addition, this works similarly in Excel. So again, if I open up a document, I don't know if there's much in here. I can now get my Copilot, which is not here today for some reason. And again, this changes regularly. I can tell you, there it is. It just popped up. So all I did was refresh my web browser and my Copilot popped up. So like I said, very, very new and so exciting. So what's great is you can open up your Copilot chat to help you analyze the data that's within your document that you have open. So let's see, you can ask Copilot for formula suggestions. So if I were to open up an existing document, we look at my files. So I have this great document. And maybe I would like to analyze this workbook and give me some interesting insights. This is great if you have a large amount of data that someone has given you. And again, now instead of going to that Copilot chat page and uploading the document and asking questions about it, you can do it directly in the application. So I'm going to stop there for just a moment and I'm going to ask Midhun, so from the technical side in the background, is there any other best practices or suggestions you might have based on using Copilot chat in the different applications?
I would say just keep it as it is because it's so limited compared to the paid version. In the paid version, you can just click on sell, for example, and ask Copilot. So in this case, I would ask you copy any value you have, paste it in the Excel sheet, in the Copilot chat text box, and then ask me questions for it. Or you can also ask for formulas based on maybe an existing set of data set that you want to use. But I would suggest just do it as it is. It's probably the best way to use the Copilot chat.
Yes, great. Good input, Midhun. And you'll notice when I asked Copilot to give me some key insights, you can see it's giving me some great data. So total revenue, yearly trends, it's even put it into a graphic for me. It's giving me the top 10 countries of revenue. And then you'll notice I actually copied and pasted this into a new sheet. So now I have that data and those insights that I can now directly work with inside my Excel sheet. So really, really powerful. So never fear, if you don't have your Copilot license yet, you have so many capabilities and ways to use Copilot to help you improve how quickly you're able to gather insights, to make edits, make message changes, and really have Copilot help you drive how you want to deliver your documents, or getting insights into your Excel data. I know for me, I'm not an Excel guru, so using Copilot or Copilot chat inside of my documents is a real help. You can see it's given me even a product category breakdown, corporate subscriptions versus consulting, on-site training. It's even given me some anomalies that have pointed out. And again, even giving me some interesting patterns that I may not have noticed just by myself reviewing all of the data. So again, really powerful. And it says it's even given me some follow-up options. Would you like me to create a dashboard style summary in Excel to generate a Power BI ready data set? So I'm not going to have it do that today right now, but as you can see, there's a lot that you can really do. Copilot Chat is quite powerful in the editing and the work that you can do using it, even though you don't have your paid license just yet. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment. Are there any questions or any thoughts that you might have, especially if you are using the Copilot Chat and you don't have your license yet, or anything as a Copilot paid license user that you might want to share with the group here? I wanted to leave these last few minutes for any questions, any thoughts, any comments. Let's see. When you say privacy considerations, do you mean with Copilot Chat? If so, anything that you ask Copilot Chat, that stays between you and Copilot. And in addition, anything that because Copilot has this enterprise security, even if you have a sensitive document that you might be asking Copilot questions about, it will never be distributed or learned outside of your organization. So anything that you ask Copilot will only be between yourself and Copilot unless you choose to share the result that Copilot gives you with others. Otherwise, it's just you and Copilot. No one can see anything that you've asked it. And I see we have another question from Linda. What about the level of security in free versus paid? The level of security is exactly the same. The real difference between those two is that Copilot has access in the paid license to everything in your organization that you have access to. Nothing more, nothing less. The difference, but from a security and enterprise security, they're both the same. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, Copilot only has access to what you give it with the Copilot Chat, the included version, where the paid license uses something called Microsoft Graph, which allows Copilot to have access to all of the data inside your organization that you personally have access to. And that's one of the reasons why you and your colleague may ask the same question to Copilot about a document or about drafting something, but you may get very different answers because you both have access to different data within your organization. Great questions. I do see anything else. Great questions, everyone. Any other questions about, those are awesome, about privacy, security. Those are very, very important. And one of the reasons Microsoft has spent a lot of effort in making sure that it's very secure, that not only what you have conversations with Copilot about, but that you and your organization are protected, and that any documents, any data that's created, edited, images that are created, that stays within your organization unless you choose personally to share it. And it's also important, just as a side note, definitely check with your organization about, AI policies. And that also includes if you're generating images. So, we here at Storyals, as a best practice, we put a little watermark on any image that's generated, just to let anyone know that the image that we have generated we have used AI to generate that image. So always make sure that you check in with your organization to see what your AI policy is, to make sure that you're always using it responsibly. And just remember, Copilot likes to make things up, so always double check. Remember, any response Copilot gives you is just a draft, I promise. Always make sure you double check. I want to thank you all so much for coming today. Midhun, you've been amazing. The rest of the team, thank you for your support. It's been wonderful getting a chance to spend this hour with you. I hope you enjoyed it. And just a note, we are sending just a quick couple question survey that will be in the email follow-up with the recording. We would love your feedback, and it really helps us to decide what type of data, what type of sessions that we continue to do in the future. What's interesting to you? What would you like to hear more about? We want to share that data with you. So please feel free to take a moment to answer a couple of questions for us, and it'll help us a lot. We appreciate you. Well, thank you all. Oh, wait, we have one last question before we go. Copilot can just get information from documents that I have access to. What about the internet? So yeah, great question that came in from Maria. For the Copilot chat, the non-paid license, as long as your organization allows Copilot to go to the internet, because that can be disabled, but most organizations do keep it enabled, it will go to the internet to gather data. So again, that's why it's really important to double check the sources of where Copilot went to gather the data. Copilot's usually very good about giving you footnotes so that you can click on those footnotes and make sure that it gathered the data to give you a response from a reliable source or from a timely source. So if you happen to ask for something that's, maybe more recent and you didn't specify that, it could be giving you data that's old. So just make sure that, you check those references and review it. So, and of course, the internet's great for answers, but a lot of times what Copilot's able to do is take the data that you may have uploaded and combine that with information from the internet to give you a much better response than just, say, Googling it. Great questions. Wonderful question, Maria. Thank you for that. Okay, well, again, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat even after the session is over. We'll make sure that we answer them for you. And we really, really appreciate your time. And it was wonderful getting a chance to spend this hour with you. Thank you so much.